keep in mind what your ultimate goal is. You're here, graduate law school, and become an attorney, and to do that you have to pass the bar, right? So this class is one that happens to be tested on the bar, so that's a good reason to study. Did you want to come in? Now, I know these little words of wisdom will mean nothing to you, and you will forget everything I just said, but it's a great book. It's called Willpower, and I forget the rest of the title. I'm reading it right now. I really just... The other thing that the book is talking about is your brain lies to you constantly. It makes you make bad decisions because you sit there and you go, well, I really want to do this, but that donut looks really good. And then you eat the donut. And then you feel guilty about eating the donut, so you eat another donut. Because that's what you do, right? That's what I do. Your brain forever gives you a license to do bad things when you've done good things. So if you go and you put away the dishes, you feel really good about yourself, you eat a piece of chocolate cake. Or watch 2 hours of television. I encourage you to read the book. It's really good. There's a lot of tricks on how to overcome these silly little things. I bring this up because I know we're here right in the middle of the semester, and it's probably getting to the point where you're like, I have so much I have to do. 5 hours of Netflix is what I need right now. And you know you don't need it, and you're going to feel bad after you do it. So I'm trying to help you figure out a way to overcome it. Why is he wasting my time on this? Let's talk about the material. Yes, problem 18. Problem 18. Did you already do a problem last week that I called on you yet? No, I went that way, right?
I said that it could be used as collateral because it's classified as a healthcare insurable receivable.
And a healthcare insurable receivable is?
An account.
An account. See, it was easy, right? I have a note to myself to look at 9109D8 for that problem. And just to remind ourselves, insurance is generally excluded, but healthcare receivables are an exception to that exclusion. And that's the important point there. All right. Miss Hall, right, Kelsey? I got that right? All right. Kelly? No, she's not here. All right, so I'm going to be... You're Kelly?
Yeah,
Oh, this is also. Yeah.
Kelly and Kelly, but Kelly, this Kelly's not here.
She got called on last.
Yeah, you already got called on. So you're cool. Sam. All right. Sam, next problem. Problem 19.
I have.
I'm going to close the door. This is kind of loud. Go ahead.
Oh, I have that it was covered under 9102A2.
9102A2. Well, what is the collateral?
Let's see. It was transactions under credit cards.
Okay. And you went to 9102A2, and that's accounts.
Yes.
And why did you include this as an account?
It's a right of payment. It's a monetary obligation.
Yeah, and if you read further into the definition of accounts,
Let's see. Is it for the services rendered or to be rendered?
all right, let me pull it up. Make sure we're looking at the same section. A2, doesn't it have a longer definition? Look at subsection 7.
Oh, arising out of the use of a credit or charge card.
So, if the answer's in the book, we don't even need to explain why it's in the book. It's just in the book. It's in the code. So I'm perfectly happy with you not having a policy reason for this not being in the code. It's in there. That's the answer. The drafters made a decision that that would be an account. It is kind of an account. I mean, it fits the definition. But sometimes it's for, you use the credit card usually to buy stuff and to buy services. So that fits, right? Yeah. The worry there was somebody would figure a way to argue that they were outside of Article 9. Okay. They didn't hear all of my motivation speech, so we're just going to let them, yeah. Hello. All right. 20. Problem 20.
So for A,
And I have, Catherine, right?
yes.
Okay, Catherine.
I have that the first blank, the milk in the farmer is a farm product.
The milk in the hands of the farmer is,
Farm.
and why is that?
Because he. It's.
I mean, I think you agree with your answer. Let's start there. Sounds right. Why is milk a farm product?
Because it's a supply related to farming operations.
Okay. We take a look at the definition, the comments. So if we look at comment 4A, 09102. Goods are farm products considered engaged in farming operations with respect to the goods. Animals in the herd of livestock are covered. Products of crops or livestock remain farm products as long as they have not been subjected to a manufacturing process. Could milk be subject to a manufacturing process?
Yes,
And what would that be?
like pasteurization.
And just so you know, pasteurization is not considered a manufacturing process that would take it out of farm products. That's what it is. Okay, I just wanted to point that out. So if the farmer has a product and turns it into yogurt, it might become inventory, right? So it starts off as a dairy product in its natural state and then gets turned into strawberry yogurt. Oh no, let's make it good, chocolate flavored yogurt, right? Then becomes a, if it's not farm product, under that circumstance, what would it be? Yes, very good. You guys are getting this, it's straightforward, right? Okay. Since we're just doing the blanks,
Okay.
the next one is
In
in
the
the
ha-
hands of the grocery store.
And I have inventory,
And why is that?
because they're using it as inventory to sell it.
Well, what does the store? What does a grocery store do with it?
They sell it,
Yeah, and what's the definition of inventory?
inventory, looking at a means goods other than farm products, which are leased by a person as lessor, are held by a person for sale. So,
There you go. That's the answer, right? The grocery store holds the milk as inventory because it holds it for sale. It's that straightforward. And it's not farm products in their hands. They're not in farming operation. In the hands of the grocery store's customer who is buying it. Michaela.
Consumer goods.
Okay, and what's the definition of consumer goods? How do we know it's consumer goods in the hands of the consumer? Although that seems patently obvious, right? I just want to make sure we understand the
I
definition.
didn't write down the note of where I got it from.
So if we look onto the definition of consumer good, we'll see 9102A
23.
23, yep. And what does it say?
Consumer goods means goods that are used or bought for use primarily for personal, family, or household purposes.
There we go, right? Food you eat held for personal, family, or household purposes, right? Bingo. Straightforward. Now, I'm not, I think that's pretty, as long as you can find it in the statute, that's good. That's the answer, okay? So we don't have to do a whole philosophical conversation about it. It's the definition. Okay, moving on.
So,
And it's Matthew, right?
yeah. So if it's in the possession of a restaurant instead of the grocery store, I think it could be inventory if they're like selling milk,
Okay.
like as a menu item, I guess.
So if it's on the menu and they're selling milk, it's inventory. Could it be inventory for another reason?
Yeah.
Take a look at the definition of inventory.
Inventory is goods other than farm products which
Look at what, 48D.
consist of raw materials, work in process, or materials. Yeah, so if they're using it to cook, then it
Yeah.
would still be inventory.
Whether they're selling it to the consumer or they're using it in the product of making their food, it's still inventory. So this is the things that are used up in the course of operating business. The other example we had last week, I think, was the sheet of paper in the hands of Staples is inventory, but also in the hands of the person that puts it into the business that puts it in the printer, it's inventory, right? Even though they're not selling it to anybody, it's used up in the course of their operations. Great. Okay, moving on to C. So Natalie, rare coins bought by a hobbyist.
Did we skip E or
Or did I skip B? Sorry. That would be on me. Yes, B, a certificate of deposit issued to a bank.
I put instrument.
Okay, why?
Because I looked up the case that it cited.
Well, okay, and is there a reason that from the definition that it fits that? What is an
It
instrument?
said it takes on the characteristics of a promissory note.
Eh,
That's what it said in the.
Yeah, I know.
An instrument is.
but a promissory note is, yeah, and explain that to me. Doesn't feel like a promissory note though, does it? What's the definition of of instrument?
A negotiable instrument or other writing that evidences a right to the payment of a monetary obligation.
Yeah, and what else?
It is not itself a security agreement or lease and is of a type that is in ordinary course of business, is transferred by delivery with any necessary endorsement or sign.
Yeah. Can a CD be transferred to somebody else? In that case, it was transferable, wasn't it?
That one, oh, in the case?
That,
Yeah.
Here's what I want to distinguish it from, deposit account, right?
Okay.
A CD is money you put into a bank, right? You usually buy CDs from a bank.
Okay.
But why is it not a deposit account? Why is it an instrument?
I don't know. I don't think I really understand what a CD is, and I know
Right.
that I have in my notes that it's different if it's transferable or transferable, that if it's transferable, it would be treated like a deposit account, but I just don't know if I understand what that means.
Shannon, would it be all right if I asked you, certificate of deposit, what would be your explanation of what it is?
It's basically it's like a contract, it's an agreement that allows me to redeem this at a later date for more money than I originally put in.
Yeah, so you go to a bank.
It's a time loan to the bank.
Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. It's a time loan to the bank. That's why the case talked about it sounding like a promissory note.
Okay.
You're essentially lending money to the bank, and the bank is paying you back with interest. That's actually what a savings account is too. It's just that with a CD, there's a document. There's a piece of paper that evidences this agreement. And they can be, depending on the circumstances, transferable. Right? So it actually is a piece of paper, although today it's probably electronic.
It's still paper.
Yeah, it's still mostly paper? Yeah.
Well, the bank will give you a piece of
Yeah.
paper, they'll keep it electronic.
Yeah. So that's why. So certificate of deposit, they're actually not that common anymore. I don't think banks, I mean, they sell them, but the interest rate on them is so low that nobody buys them
So
anymore.
you go put money in the bank, they give you that back, you can cash it back in to get your money back later, plus make some, I think, small interest.
The key is that it's a piece of paper that you
Okay,
get.
then what difference does it make if it's transferable or not? I think that's,
Well, it looks more like an instrument. Yeah, the more, if you read the definition, and is in the course of business commonly transferred. Isn't that what it says?
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So if it would've said non-transferable, then it wouldn't?
It's a stronger argument, it looks like a deposit
Okay.
account. Yeah, I think it's an instrument here. We don't talk about them very much because interest rates are so low that people are not investing in CDs. In 1984, the interest rate on a CD was 15% or higher. So you went to a bank, you gave them $1,000, and a year later they gave you back $1,015. Yay. All right, it was a huge amount of money. People invested a lot in CDs. Now the interest rate's like 0.7%. Oh, nobody buys them because they're not worth it. Now people are investing in stock and other kinds of securities. Okay, then there's the next thing in that problem. So then it says an air bill issued by an airline for shrimp.
I put a document,
Okay, why do you have it as a document?
because it's a receipt, and under the definition says a document it means a document, title, or a receipt.
Yeah. Okay, good. The next example.
Rare coins bought by a
No, there's one more in that problem.
The receipt given to a farmer by a silo operator when the farmer stored grain there. That's also a document.
It's essentially a warehouse receipt. the farmer deposits corn in the silo, and the silo issues a document to the farmer saying, I'm holding X tons of grain for you. That document is actually evidence of the ownership of that property. And transferable, right? You can actually sell the wheat in the silo by handing over the receipt to somebody else. All right, questions about those before we move on? I want to make sure we understand instruments and documents. Great. Okay. Top row now talking to Nicole, did I get that right?
Yeah.
All right, so we'll talk about the rare coins now.
I said it's a consumer good.
And why is that?
Well, because he's doing it as a hobby, so I thought it was for personal purposes.
Okay. Things you do as hobbies are personal things, right? So the property you own that you use in your hobbies are for personal, family, or household use. Yeah. Everybody agree with that? Good. Next one.
D, I said a tax refund was a general intangible.
Okay. And why?
I mean, I looked at the case and I thought it was an intangible, but I didn't think it fit into any of the other categories.
So it's a right to receive a payment, right? It's the IRS, it's a refund, right?
This is an account.
No, great distinction to make. Why would it not be an account? Who did the earlier account question? Yeah. What's an account? Let's look at the definition of account. What is it? If you look at the definition of account, it's got to fit into one of those 7 or 8 subcategories that are listed. And the first two are for money owed on account of goods sold, or 2, services provided, and then there's credit card debt and all these other things. Does it fit into any of those subcategories? No. So it doesn't feel like an account, right? So if it's not an account, it's not a chattel paper, it's not all the other things, what has it to be? What does it have to be? The catch-all. It doesn't fit into any of the other categories. So it has to be a general intangible, right? It's a right to receive payment, so it looks like a payment intangible, but that's a general intangible. Okay? Yes?
Is it different if it's like a paper check?
So,
Like if you get it in the mail?
if it's a check, so here the description is it's an amount owed, and the IRS has just said, we owe you a refund. But they haven't issued the check yet. If they issue the check, what is the check? So now you have a check. What is a check? Yes, exactly. So it changes. So, but we're always asking the question, at the time of creation of the security interest, what do we have? Not, it could become a check later, yes. We're gonna see in later chapters of the book, when things get converted, sometimes they're proceeds, sometimes they're something else. So the check could be proceeds of the general intangible. Yeah, but we haven't studied proceeds yet. At the time of creation of the security interest, what is it? Here it was just a bare obligation by the IRS to pay a refund. Great. Next one. Thank you.
A debenture bond issued by a corporation, and I had that it was investment property.
Okay, and why?
Well, it's quasi-tangible because it's like a paper that might do something, and it also, just looking at the definition of investment property, it kind of fits with it since it's unsecured.
Yep. All right, questions about that one? So and what did they refer to it as? I think they used a curious name, a debenture bond. Common parlance, I think most people talk about debentures. But a debenture is an obligation to pay money represented by, an obligation to pay money usually by a corporation. A bond is usually debt issued by a corporation, but it's in the form of a security, which means they sell obligations to pay this money on pieces of paper that you can buy. So if a company is issuing $1 million in bonds, maybe an investor buys $10,000 worth of those debts, and they will get a piece of paper that says $10,000, a bond that says that. So that's what a bond is. It's a loan in the form of piece of paper. That's why it's investment property.
And,
Thank you.
a right to 100 shares of stock recorded on the books of the debtor's stockbroker would also be investment property.
Okay, are we good about investment property? Now, if you haven't taken BizOrg, maybe this is something that's not obvious to you yet. Corporations raise money two different ways. They either sell stock, which for Article 9 purposes is investment property, or they sell bonds. Stock is ownership, bonds is debt. So a bond is a loan that the company borrows money from investors. Stock is money that they raise from investors and they give ownership shares in the company. That's the difference, right? A bond, there's an interest rate. On security, there isn't, right? On stock, there isn't. On stock, you own part of the company. If they pay dividends, that's what you get. That's all you need to know for this class. We're not doing corporate law, okay? All right. I think we've gone through the whole class already once, right? That means we have to start over. Oh my gosh, that sucks.
Let's see, which one is it F? I'm doing.
Yes.
Okay. The checking account you have at the bank, is that an account?
It's an account. It's called a bank account, but for Article 9 purposes, what kind of account? It's not an account, which is a 9102A2.
Deposit account?
Deposit account. Okay, great. Money held by a bank, other than Natalie's certificate of deposit, is a deposit account. So, definition of deposit account. When we say bank account, we mean deposit account in Article 9 terms. Great. Thank you. Then we're on to G. Oh my gosh, computer program.
I think that's a general intangible.
Okay. How do you come up with that?
I think that the definition of general intangible includes software.
It does. If you look at the comments to the definition, to the definition section, I believe here we're looking for D. So it's 9102 comment 4D, and there's a discussion of general intangibles. And there it talks about the kinds of things, and I believe, actually, and then there's also, shoot, where's the software one? Comment, so. Comment 25. Sorry. So that same section, if we flip to that, it says, the discussion of software. Software is used in connection with the priority rules. Software is like a payment intangible, is a type of general intangible, but it could also be not only a general intangible. There's another type of software that's something else.
Could it be equipment?
Well, yes, but more generally. Yes, I agree. It could be equipment. But let's take a look at the definition of goods. The term also includes a computer program embedded in goods and any supporting information provided in connection with a transaction relating to the program. So it could be goods if it's embedded in the goods. But if it's a standalone piece of software, it's general intangible. How do you know the difference?
I guess like a good would be like if you bought like a Microsoft Office license.
Okay, so that's a good. What is a good? It's a movable thing, right?
Yeah.
Is software a movable thing?
I'd say generally no.
Okay, right. And if you look at the bottom of the definition, it says a good, second to last sentence. The term does not include a computer program embedded in goods that consists solely of the medium in which the program is embedded. You buy Microsoft Office and it comes on a DVD. Is the DVD goods?
No.
No, because of that exclusion in the definition. What you're buying is software. The DVD is kind of extra. If it comes on a USB drive, don't care. It's not a good. It's the software that you're buying that's embedded, that's copied onto that. When is it a good? So give me an example of an embedded software. Anybody?
When you buy a computer, Windows.
No, is Windows embedded? Can you delete Windows and put in Linux on your computer? Okay, so you can get rid of Windows. So that's software, right? What kind of software can't you get rid of?
What about like a video game console?
All right, so what part of the video game console?
The software-
Explain to me.
The software within the video game.
And why are you saying that's goods, not software?
Because you can't delete it or take it out and move it to another console or anything like that.
I think that's right.
So wouldn't it just be like the CD?
No.
The video game, you're talking about the.
So you buy the console, and it comes with software that makes it operate.
Well, you can crack it.
Okay, and we're not talking about hacking here, it's the normal commercial uses of these products. Software that is stored in a good that makes the thing operate, do the thing it's supposed to do, is embedded software, is part of the goods. I'll give you an easy example. Has anybody here got a refrigerator that has software built into it? Right? The Internet of Things, this is the great thing that's going to happen next. All of our toasters and our refrigerators and our electric shavers, they're all going to talk to each other, right?
Roomba?
Roomba, yes, great example. Does the Roomba need software?
Yes.
It absolutely has to have software. It's got a computer on board. The way it works is it runs software. Do you have to buy that software separately? Comes with it, right? You can't operate without it. You're typically not deleting it off of there to install it. I would say the Roomba operating system is embedded software. It's part of the good. It doesn't exist separately. It's not a general intangible. It's embedded. Yeah.
So is the actual video game a type of software that would be a general intangible?
Yes. That's what I would say. So you buy the PS4. Hopefully the new PS5 will come out soon and we can all upgrade, right? Xbox or PS5? PS? Xbox? I don't know.
GameCube.
GameCube, there we go. Game Boy. Yes. Okay. This is a hard one. Software is a little bit difficult because you just got to do the analysis. Is it embedded into the good that it's sold with, or is it a separately sold piece of software? If it's separately sold, it's software, it's a general intangible, and we don't care that it comes on DVD or USB drive. It doesn't matter. It's still the software that you're buying, right? The medium of getting it to you is irrelevant. Excellent. Okay. The monthly rental obligations owed to a landlord.
So, accounts that is a right to a payment and monetary obligation for property. Then, I think it's 9109D11. Says that Article 9 doesn't apply to the creation of an interest in or lien on real property.
Okay, so the rent is a D11 excluded kind of account. I mean, it could be styled as an account, but it's not because of D11. So then but the problem goes on, and it says something else, right? The promissory notes signed for tenants to pay their rent. Oh, sorry, that's another blank. That's not fair. You were only doing one blank at a time.
I have, it's an instrument.
Yeah. Why?
Because it's a negotiable instrument or any other writing.
But it's related to real estate.
Right, but isn't the rent, I put because the rent was negotiable like your sign, but isn't it?
So even though the transaction relates to property, it's a separate piece of collateral. It's not the rent obligation, it's a promissory note that is about, right? They executed promissory notes that are separate and apart from the real estate interest, okay? So this is just like the mortgage situation. Mortgages are not Article 9 transactions, ever. Promissory notes are collateral for Article 9 purposes because they're personal property in the form of an instrument. If the promissory note is part of a mortgage transaction, it doesn't matter. It's still an instrument. It's still an Article 9 collateral. Yes?
So what was the first one, the rental obligations?
So, why is rent excluded?
Because of 9109D11, it says the creation of an interest in or lien on real property is excluded from Article 9.
Okay, so D11 excludes real estate transactions. So mortgages, leases, things like that are not Article 9 transactions. okay? But you execute a promissory note about that transaction, the promissory note is a personal property right covered by Article 9. Just a couple more, we're almost done. There's the Morgan County Feeders case. We talked about the equipment, right? They're not held, the cattle is equipment, not held for sale. Problem 21.
I think the guitar would be a consumer good,
Why?
because when he originally bought it, it was for his personal or like family use.
Go ahead. Why?
Oh, because when.
Well, you bought it for what kind of purpose?
I think it's for his own personal enjoyment originally.
Well, what does the problem say? This is 21, right?
Right.
You bought it as a speculative investment. Do people invest for personal, family, or household purposes?
No.
They don't?
Well, I mean, they could, yeah.
Do you have investments? You're a student. You invest in debt. Do your parents, do people you know in your life that don't have, that are not in school, have they invested for personal, family, or household purposes?
Yes.
401ks, IRAs.
Yes.
So, but what if he's in the business of investing?
If he's in the business of investing, then I would say you buy it for like a business purpose.
Okay, this one could be either, right? If we think the investments are personal investments, then it's personal, family, or household property. Then it's a,
Consumer.
if he is in the business of buying assets for investment purposes, what is it then?
Would be an investment property?
Okay, is it an investment property?
No, it would be, I guess, inventory? If he's gonna sell it at a later date?
Well, let's take a look at comment 4A about inventory. It's held when? In what way do you have to hold it? So it talks about inventory. It says, goods are in inventory if they're leased by a lessor or held by a person for sale. Inventory, goods are, let's see. Implicit in the definition is the criterion that the sales or leases are or will be in the ordinary course of business. Is he in the, all right, so are there companies that buy and sell collectibles and hold them for sale in the ordinary course of their business?
Yes.
Very popular show on, I forget, TLC maybe? Sorry?
The History Channel.
The History Channel, and what's the show?
Is it Pawn Stars?
Yes! Right? They are in the business of buying collectibles for sale, right? Is that the business he's in? For in the sale in the ordinary course of business?
Yeah.
Maybe not, right?
Right.
If he was, we would say inventory. If he's not, what is it? So he's in the business of investing, but he doesn't hold it for sale in the ordinary course of business.
I would think equipment would be.
Yes! Then it's equipment, right?
Right.
Because there's four kinds of goods. Is it farm products?
Yeah.
Is it consumer goods?
Possible.
If he's in the business of
No.
collect, no. If he's an investor, no. Does he hold it for sale as part of the ordinary course of his business? No. Well, at least he might not. If he does it, then it's equipment. Okay. That make sense? I want to make sure you all get this. In the hands of this debtor, this is when we have goods, we have to ask, what is the debtor doing with it? So I think your analysis as consumer goods is a good starting point, because if he's just a collector in the sense of he likes to hold on to stuff that's old, for personal, family, or household purposes, what is it? Consumer goods. That's obvious. But if he's in the business of investing, can an individual be in the business of investing? Everybody here ever heard of a day trader? Would you say it's their business if they're a day trader? What's a day trader?
Someone that pretty much just buys and sells
stock on a daily basis has their own.
They sit at a desk all day long trading stocks minute to minute, right? That's a day trader. Is that their business?
Yes.
Yes. And so I would say whatever they do is either, if they're buying and selling stock, let's make it collectibles. If they're buying and selling collectibles, that sounds like inventory. But they're not, it's not inventory. So, because he doesn't sell them on a regular basis, so it sounds more like equipment. Yes?
I know it's the original intent.
Yes, the intent of the user, of the debtor at the time that the security interest is created, not later.
So I think I've answered my own question. If he decided then to put it up for sale on eBay, it wouldn't change the classification.
Our classification, what happens later, is a set of rules we haven't studied yet. Yeah. Sometimes the original perfection is okay, sometimes we have to update it. We'll see, there are different rules. Okay, but at the time he entered into it. Great. I think it sounds more like consumer goods, but I'm worried, so I would probably want to file a document because I'm going to find later, consumer goods, you don't have to file things in many cases, but for most other debtors, you have to file a financing statement. All right. Does the problem go on? That's it, right? Yes. Problem 22.
Okay. Are these contracts?
That was Lucas and now Keaton. Right?
Keaton.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that would be chattel paper.
Okay, why?
Because there's a monetary obligation, and it's a security interest, I guess. Maybe.
This problem is in there so you can understand what chattel paper is.
Okay.
Yeah, what is chattel paper?
It's a loan with a security interest as well.
Okay, there's a monetary obligation and what else? A security interest in?
That's pretty good.
Yeah, and personal property, right?
Yeah.
So part of one transaction, there's two documents, or one document that embodies two transactions, a promissory note or a monetary obligation and a security interest in personal property. The classic example is the car loan. Car loans are chattel paper because when you go to the dealer and you say, I want to buy a car, they make you sign a piece of paper and it says, you owe me so much money over the next 5 years and you grant me a security interest in the car. That's chattel paper. What's the interesting thing about chattel paper is it can be sold. The chattel paper itself, that obligation with the security interest attached, can be transferred away. So most car dealers, when they do those things, if they do it internally, they don't keep them because they want cash. So they sell them to a bank or some other investor. Okay, great. One more problem. We're almost done with this section. 22.
23?
Sorry, 23, sorry.
That I guess if it's a statute lien, a statutory lien, that it wouldn't fall under?
Okay, most statutory liens are outside of the scope. What is it about this particular statutory lien that might make it an Article 9
Is
transaction?
it also an agricultural lien?
Does it cover agricultural goods?
It kind of gets that vibe, yeah.
Kind of gets that vibe? So agricultural liens in 9102A, 9109, sorry, 9109A3, is it? No, 2. 9109A2 agricultural liens are included by definition, even though it's statutory and it's not a transaction in the classic sense of A1, we're including them anyway. And the reason is that for practical reasons, it was just better to include them. There's no, this is a practical decision by the drafters, just to bring it into the Article 9 requirements. If it has to, so the consequence of it being an agricultural lien means you have to follow the rules of Article 9, which means filing. Okay. Great. Okay. First, I'm looking at the time. I'd like to meet again on Friday. I'm not going to take attendance. Attendance is only taken on Wednesdays. but I'm gonna extend class till Friday, like I said, I might do a couple of times during the course of the semester, just to make sure we get all done with the discussion of the validity of the forms before we move on to attachment next week, okay? So, we have two documents that I went over in my lectures. What are they?
Financial statement, security agreement.
Security agreement and a financing statement, right? These are the two essential pieces of paper that are used in an Article 9 transaction. So, for the lecture today, we'll talk quickly about what a security agreement is, but next week's lecture about attachment, the security agreement is more essential, right? Today's discussion is more about the financing statement. So we're only going to talk about the general financing statement and then the name of the debtor. The description of collateral, we will talk about next week, okay? So we're talking about why we have the forms, and then we're talking about the name of the debtor. And the name of the debtor, unfortunately, is complicated. Should be easy, it's not. So that's why we're concentrating on that today. And then next week we talk about issues that come up with the description of the collateral, both in the security agreement and the financing statement, and then also attachment, and attachment is about the security agreement. All right, so first, before we start looking at the problems, any issues from the lectures? Yes?
Can we go over the two ways that you find a name, like option A and option B?
Yes, and we will do that. And actually, now that you mention it, let me pull up, I put together just a quick slide. I wanted, before I did the slide show, I wanted to make sure I answered any questions, but yes. So let me just say this. For our class, we're using A. I like it, it's easy. It's the driver's license rule. Simplifies life, right, if we go with A. I think, I haven't checked this in a while, I believe the majority of states use the driver's license rule, option A, but not every state has, and not every state has chosen option B either. They've done their own thing. So Tennessee, I think, has license or state-issued identification card as their rule, which again makes sense, right? It's either the license that they've issued, which is a state-issued ID, or if the person's not a driver, they also issue a non-driver's license. Not a license, non-driver's ID card. So, but for our purposes, we're going to talk about driver's licenses, okay? That just makes it simple. Other questions about it? Sorry, I meant to do this when I walked in. I did it. Just be a second. For today and next week, the financing statement is the document we use to perfect. We are not studying perfection this week or next week. Perfection is, we're going to review again, but the financing statement is the document that we use for perfection. Perfection is the basic idea that a security agreement, perfection is the system that is created to protect secured parties against other people claiming an interest in the property. So it's the filing against the world. The security agreement is a contract between the secured party and the debtor. So a lot of the issues that come up with financing statements are not relevant to that discussion because they know each other. The bank lent to them. Who they are is not a secret. They're sitting in their office signing a loan document. So issues about who what the debtor's name is are irrelevant for the security agreement because the secured party obviously is talking to the debtor. What's your name? Let me see your driver's license. All of that stuff. So we don't care. But on the financing statement, because it's a document that is applicable against the rest of the world, it needs to be accurate. And that's the key part of this, the accuracy of that document. The accuracy issue we're talking about today is the name. The accuracy issue we're talking about next week is the description of the collateral. If those things are screwed up, then we have problems. All right. Oh, here we go. Come on. What is going on here? Sorry. I walked in and I started logging in and then I forgot to log in. And it won't. Does anybody in this room use Edge, the Microsoft browser? It seems like a terrible piece of software, am I right? Like Chrome is so much better, or Firefox. Edge is just awful. It never works for me. There. Yes. That's not right. All right. All right. I'm going to do this before we do the problems. Hopefully this will answer your questions, okay? Because we'll talk about a little bit about the names, the issues with names. All right. So the first thing that, no, that's, that's not right. Okay. Okay, the filing system, which is an important, the finance statement is part of, we would understand how the financing system works. It's communicating to the rest of the world, right? So the filer is the secured part, the person who's claiming the security interest. And they send a piece of paper to the filing system. Usually it's the Secretary of State's office for the state of where the filing is occurring, okay? That financing statement is going to has to list three things, as we saw in the lecture, right? It has to list the debtor's name, the debtor's address, and the collateral description. Now, the reason for filing is so that other people can search. That's why we have filing systems. So the question is, how do they search? They don't search by address or description of collateral, do they? That's sort of impractical. They want to find out if the person they're going to lend money to is the person that they're talking to right now. If the person that they're going to lend money to, has already borrowed money from other people and granted security interests. So the only way you search is by name. So getting the name right helps, for the filer to get the name right, helps the searcher find the documents. So both of these parties need to put the right name in. The filer has to file under the right name so that the searcher can find it, and the searcher has to search under the right name so that they find the right documents. Okay. So, there is no definition of name. So, what does Black say? A legal name. A person's full name is recognized in law. A legal name is usually acquired at birth or through a court order. Full name. An individual's personal name, second or middle name, or initials, if any, and surname arranged in a customary order. Common law name, the name by which the debtor is generally known for non-fraudulent purposes in the community. Tiger Woods. How is Tiger Woods known? If you search under Tiger Woods, this is a Westlaw search that the person who did this presentation did. 8,440 hits. If you search under his birth certificate name, 105. His name on his birth certificate is Eldrick Taunt Woods. Has anyone outside of his parents, ever called him Eldrick? No, he's known in the community as Tiger Woods. Many people have this, right? Their birth certificate is not how people know them. So now here's a question. What's his name? But that's not good. Well, you need one name to search under. You're right. Both are his name, as I just showed you, right? Your name could be many different things. So that's a correct answer, but insufficient for Article 9 purposes. If there are multiple opportunities or multiple versions of a person's name, searching becomes a nightmare. And so Article 9 has to come up with a system to figure out how we do searching for names. We don't know what this legal name is. Okay, so what is alternative A? And this is the alternative I prefer. It's what your driver's license says. If the debtor is an individual to whom this state has issued a driver's license that has not expired, why does it need to be a currently valid license? Well, why does it need to be unexpired? If it's unexpired, the state no longer can guarantee that that's the name that you claim to own, right? While you have your driver's license and it's still valid, you're supposed to go to the DMV and change it if your name changes. So if it's a valid license, then we have some belief that it reflects the actual name that you've reported to the DMV. If you have a license, then the only name that fits is the name on the driver's license. Simple. I love this version. And it's the version I'm going to use in class for exam purposes. Version B, which I discussed in my lecture, has 3 options, including the driver's license. But it also says birth certificate, and then it also says name as you're known. Very, very, very confusing. So, let me give you an example. Debtor's exact legal name is Robert Paul Marshall. Birth certificate, right? Debtor's driver's license name is Santa Claus. Is a filing against Robert Paul Mitchell valid under this version? You feel good about that answer? You feel good about that answer? People who feel good about stuff, yell it out. Come on, do you feel good about this answer? No, it's still a valid license. Is a filing against Robert Paul Marshall valid? No! I just told you. And you all agreed. So, in fairness, you all said, okay. Is a filing against Santa Claus valid?
Yes.
Yell it out.
Yes.
Okay. I understand this is so dry and it's so dull, but small mistakes cause big problems. Has no driver's license. Is a filing against John Philip Watson effective? You're bored because you know the answer. What's the answer?
I want to say like yes.
Oh, why do you? If you want to say it, just say it.
I mean,
And if you're wrong, we'll just ridicule you. There's no downside, right?
I mean, just looking at the text, it does include his last name and his first personal name, so even though the middle name.
Everyone else was a coward, right? Oh, I'm sorry. I get it. Not excited. Why would you yell it out, right? Okay. If you have a surname and first personal name, but they don't have a driver's license, and that's what you enter in under the financing statement, you have entered the correct name. So the filer would be correct and the searcher would be correct, even though the middle name is wrong. Okay? Option B basically says it's either the driver's license or this or Birth certificate, I think is what it says, right? Isn't that what B says? Take a look at, yeah. Okay. A financing statement that fails sufficiently to provide the name of the debtor in accordance with 9503A is seriously misleading. It is not seriously misleading because it complies with 9503. Okay? Good. These are the rules that we're working with. What's a registered organization? An entity created by a state. The correct name is that stated in the records. Public organic record. What's a public, why is it organic?
Okay, I have to go back, but.
No, it's all right, go ahead.
How did someone get Santa Claus on their license? Like, I had to show a birth certificate to get mine, so like.
Is it a reasonable question? No, it's a stupid question, but I know the legal answer to it. And that's why it was in. No one's gonna get Santa Claus on their license. You're right.
So like, you can just go and get it.
But could the DMV, could you walk into the DMV and say, I know my birth certificate says Bob, but everybody calls me Phil. Can I just put Phil down? And the person says, yeah, Phil's cool. We'll put Phil. I understand, I'm not saying that this, you're absolutely right. They're not going to do this. It was a ridiculous example, but if it's on the driver's license, that's the name you put in. And there is no other name. Even if it's 100% wrong, it's the right name. Right? 100% not the person's name, birth name. If they can convince the driver, like, I don't know, Tiger Woods might be able to convince the DMV that his name is Tiger Woods. They might say, I'm not putting in Outright, I'm putting in Tiger. And if they do, then that's his name for Article 9 purposes, under alternative A. Okay? Why is it called organic? Is it sold at Whole Foods? No, it's an organization, right? So therefore it's the organic record. I didn't write this statute. This is a statute that says somebody who owes a debt is called an obligor, and the person who doesn't own the debt is called a debtor. Right? They've made choices that are just unexplainable. I would never, before I read this statute in 2010, have called articles of incorporation an organic record. They wanted to come up with a terminology that applied across the board to all state-created entities. And so they came up with the idea of organic record. So, it's whatever the government asks you to file, and then they certify it. Okay?
Question.
If you have an organization created by the government, it's only the name that's on file with the government. That's it. No other answer. Okay? We'll skip that for a second. This is the California version. Okay. Problems. What if there's an error? I'm just going to point this out. We'll study this again. What if there's an error in the name? You have to use the search logic. Whatever the state has chosen as its search logic dictates whether or not the name is seriously misleading. So if a name is entered a particular way, even with a mistake, but the search logic will pull it up, then you're okay. So let's take a look at the search logic for organizations in the case that's in the book. It's on page 79. There are no limits to the number of matches. No distinction is made between upper and lower cases. So intercapitalization does not matter. Punctuation marks and accents, disregarded. Possessive or non-possessive, don't care. Words and abbreviations at the end of the name that indicate existence or nature of an organization are disregarded. So Inc., Corp., LLC, disregarded. The list is at the bottom. All spaces are disregarded. The word the at the beginning is disregarded. So if it's the Ohio State, but you type in Ohio State, it's the same thing. Did you see that story? Ohio State University wants to trademark the word the. Because they're the Ohio State. this would ignore the word the, as I think the rest of the world should. Because it's pretentious. Hey, anybody an OSU grad? Sorry, I don't mean to make fun of OSU. Okay. It's only misleading if, based on the search that's done using this logic, and it's not found, is it misleading? If a mistake is made, like you dropped an apostrophe, it doesn't search for apostrophes. So if you drop an apostrophe, it's not misleading. So if a filing says, I don't know, Susan's Cookies, apostrophe S, and the bank types in Susan's Cookies, no apostrophe S, irrelevant, because apostrophes are not used as part of the search. Okay, we did all this already. And standard search logic for individuals. Initials are the equivalent of all names that begin with the initials, and no middle name is the equivalent of all middle names. So if you request John A. Smith, it retrieves individual debtors with John or the initial J as a first name, okay? Smith as a last name, and A, any name beginning with A or nothing as the middle name, okay? So that's how it works. So let's start talking about the principal problems. We were looking at problem, there's a couple of problems before we get to the debtor's name part. So it says, Frederick Bean bought a new computer and he signed something called a conditional sales contract. Is that a secured transaction? I see a nod, I'm sorry, but what do you think? Why? A conditional sale is not, it's not a conditional sale, it's a completed sale with a retention of a security interest, by definition. So this is an Article 9 transaction. The document called a conditional sales contract is reread to be a security agreement, a loan and a security agreement. That make sense? We look through the substance to the form. If the transaction is actually a sale with a retention of a security interest, which this by definition is, it's an Article 9 transaction. So we basically reread the document to be what it really is, which is a sale with a loan and a security interest attached. Okay, so problem 25. Harry Fellini ran a movie theater called Fellini's Art Theater, but because he was the sole proprietor, that was his trade name. He gave a security interest in the business as equivalent to Shark Teeth Finance Company. The finance company calls for a listing of the debtor's name. Should the parties use the business name or the individual name? I'll just throw this out to the group. What do we think?
Harry Fellini?
Yep. So not the DBA, not the business name.
Correct.
Sole proprietorship is an individual, so therefore it's the individual's name that you file under. Take a look at 503C here. C says, debtor's trade name insufficient. A financing statement that provides only the debtor's trade name does not sufficiently provide the name of the debtor. 503C. So it's his trade name, it's not his name. His name is, again, what was the name?
Harry Fellini.
Harry Fellini. Great. Individuals only have their individual name. That sounds like obvious, but I had to say it. Okay. If the theater were to run as a partnership, would the partnership name be used as the debtor's name? What does 503A4 say? Subject to subsection G. If the debtor is an individual to whom the state, okay. Is a partnership a corporation? Does a general partnership file papers with the state to become an entity? Who here took BizOrg? Wow, Are you doing partnerships?
Yes.
How do you create a partnership? Sorry?
Appearance of a partnership is created when there's an appearance of a partnership.
And what does it mean to appear like a partnership?
Carry on business as partners, each person shares profit and control.
Yeah. It's when two or more people come together to operate a business and to share the profits. Yes. Do you file paperwork with the government to do that? No, ever. General partnerships are formed when two people get together to start a business, even if they don't know it. Partnerships exist at the moment two people get together to start a business for profit and to share the profits and operate the business together. So I agree. The appearance thing threw me off a little bit, but that's right. It's to the world. What does it look like? Yeah, no, that's right. That's right. To the world, is it a partnership? That's what we're asking. Great. So what's the name of a partnership? What's the name of a partnership?
So then it's under both of their individual last names.
Do partnerships always operate under the name of the partners? So what's the name of a partnership that is not operating under the name of the partners? Well, is a partnership an organization? Yes. Right? Under the definition that I described in my lectures, general partnership is an organization. What is its name? It sounds like I'm trying to trick you. I really am not. Can a partnership have a name that it operates under? Yes. If it operates under a specific name, what's the name of the partnership? The name that it operates under. Right? That sounds very straightforward, doesn't it? Yes. So if the partners have gotten together and they say, for example, we're going to operate under, Smith and Gibbons, the Smith-Gibbons partnership, or we're going to have, that's a bad example because those are names. So Smith and Gibbons get together and they operate the intellectual property partnership. The name of the partnership is the intellectual property partnership. Gibbons is my co-author. I write a couple of things. That's the name of the partnership. What's the name you file under?
Enter the partner, whatever the name is.
What if it doesn't have a name? What if they have not chosen a name for the partnership? Then, yes. Then it's their names. A partnership is an organization, and so it fits under, you file under the partnership's name, whatever that name is, whatever they choose it to be. Yes?
So it doesn't have to be a registered organization?
A partnership is never a registered organization. If you have two people who start a company together and they want to be a registered organization, it would be something other than a general partnership.
Okay.
It would be a corporation, an LLC, a limited liability partnership, something like that. It would have some other name.
Okay.
Yeah. Partnerships are never, you don't file documents. That's just the way the partnership law has been set up. It's not one that requires any filing.
What's the difference between just a chosen partnership name and a trade name?
Well, I don't know. What is the difference?
I don't know.
Well, so let's ask this question. If the trade name is what the partnership operates under, is it its name?
Yeah.
I think you're all set. Where would you like to verify the name of the partnership? If you're the bank and you're freaking out, you're going, I don't know what name to put down, where would you want to look? Yes, the partnership agreement. Presumably, if this is a well-run partnership, they've gotten together with a lawyer to draft a partnership agreement, and it states the name of the partnership. If it is not a well-run partnership and the bank is talking to these people, then I would say, go get a lawyer and get yourself a partnership agreement, because I'm not going to give you any money. I want a name and I want it to be official. But then I would also, because I'm a little freaked because these people are sort of sloppy, I would file under their individual names, their new partnership name. I would file 5 different ways because I'm freaking out. You can never overfile. So if you're freaked out, you just file the documents, to be sure. But if they have a partnership agreement and it says the name of this partnership shall be, then that's the name of the partnership. Okay? Partnerships are never registered organizations, ever. Limited partnerships are. Limited liability, limited partnerships are. But general partnerships are never registered organizations. Okay. Bob Walton has always used Bob as his first name through his, even though his birth certificate lists him as Robert Edward Walton. All of Bob's public records use Bob Walton, and that is the name on his driver's license. Ding, 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 ding. When Bob applied for a loan from a credit union using his valuable comic book collection as collateral, what kind of collateral would that be? You did the guitar, so.
Yeah, equipment. No, sorry.
Well, maybe, if he's in the business of buying and selling or holding comic books as a business. But if it's just for personal use, what would it be? Yeah, okay, so it's consumer goods. And then, using his value, will the credit union be perfected in an alternative A state if the financing statement identifies him as Bob Walton? We feel good about that?
Mm-hmm.
Alternative A, it's on his driver's license, that's his name. Now, if he took his birth certificate to the DMV, what should they put in? But they may not. He may be able to convince them, everybody knows me as Bob, can I just put Bob? And they go, and that's what it is. Whatever they decide. It makes it nice and easy. There's an answer to this. It's what's on the driver's license. Okay. In an alternative B state, is Bob Walton okay? Yes, right? It's one of the alternatives in alternative B states, driver's license. But Robert, his full name, Robert Edward Walton, would also be okay. It would not be okay in an alternative A state. It's only the driver's license. What if the driver's license lapses and he fails to get another one? What happens if he has an expired license? What's his name?
We just revert back to what was the last file. Like, I guess.
Well, it hasn't been filed.
Or, sorry.
He has an unexpired license and he goes to the bank. What's the name that he has to put on his license? On the financing statement.
First and last name?
First and, so surname and first personal name. So Robert and Walton. That's the default. That's the default if you don't have a driver's license. Surname and first personal name. Then you're okay. All right? Okay. So we will meet on Friday to finish this stuff up. If you haven't finished working the problems, do it. If you haven't finished watching the videos, do that, and then we'll hopefully be able to get through this stuff pretty quickly on Friday. I hope not to go 75 minutes.